Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. Guess what? That's it, baby. It's me. It's Harsh. You look amazing. I'm getting straight into the meat and potatoes as we are venturing back into the Idaho 4 for the next few days because we've got things happening around the Idaho 4 case. And I do want to try and get more and more people interested in the Idaho 4 case who may not have been interested in it. Some of the new people who have come over because next year we will be streaming the trial live on this channel every day of the trial for the potentially 3-month trial that there's going to be. But look, I want to take us back because I am somebody who doesn't believe that Bryan Kohberger at this stage did this crime. I'm open and largely open to the potential that he didn't do it. He didn't do it. And it does make me feel that in order to think, okay, Bryan didn't do it, and many people will turn around and they'll say, well, if Bryan didn't do it, who did it then? And I do want to go back to Brent Kopacka. I do want to go back to Brent Kopacka. Now, what I will say before I go any further is this is purely my opinion. This is just my opinion. And my opinion isn't based on anything. I'm not a professional law enforcement person. I'm not someone who's been, at ground zero. And I understand that some people don't like this being said, but it has to be said. It has to be said because Bryan Kohberger is either guilty. He's either guilty or he's innocent. He either did it or he didn't. There's no grey area. Did it, didn't do it. If he did it, I hope that it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the guy did it. And we can all be satisfied at the end that the right person was found, that they did a job. I wouldn't say a good job because I feel the whole way in which it's been handled has done nothing but enable the media to get hold of it and run with disgusting things that have done nothing positive towards this. But look, Brent Kopacka was a hero. He served his time for his country. Truly heroic guy. But he was a truly heroic, broken guy. Now, there is nothing that I can find that connects Brent Kopacka to Bryan Kohberger. That has to be said. There's loads and loads of posts on the internet that offer some degree of, they were friends or they smoked together, they hung about together, they did this, and this. I have been looking at this case since the beginning, and there is nothing that connects Bryan Kohberger to Brent Kopacka other than they were both in Washington. That's it. That's the connection. They both came from the same area and didn't come from. They were residing in the same area. Right. So that's it. But look, if you're going to say Bryan Kohberger could have done it because he was in Washington, he could have gone from Washington to Idaho, then you have to consider that Brent Kopacka could have done it. He could have gone from Washington to Idaho because he could have seen the same sort of thing. The difference between these two people is that Bryan Kohberger is a bit of an awkward academic, little bit of a geek, little bit of an outsider, a night owl, apparently a vegan, no previous signs of any violent tendencies. Nobody's come forward and really blew us out of the water with any consideration to be had regarding that he could have been a monster. And I'm not saying that everybody who turns into a monster has these things, but generally there are some warning signs. And to be honest, there don't seem to be anything that's a warning sign in Bryan's life. There doesn't. He couldn't flay a fish. He tickled a girl once on Tinder date. That's about it. He called someone a name, or a girl was offended at a bar once and he was told to sack it in. But that's about it. So pretty normal. Do you know what I mean? Just a pretty normal guy. Just a normal, nothing special about him whatsoever. Yes, he had a bit of a narcotics history, but so do millions of other people across the world, and they don't turn into murderers. He drove around at night, apparently. Many people do, myself included. I've never murdered anybody. So look. But Brent Kopacka was a hero who was broken. The time that he served meant that he was living with a traumatic brain injury. And Yeah, he went through something. And around the time of the Idaho 4 case and the murders, he was going through a traumatic situation that would end up with him being executed. He was a trained killer. He was a soldier. He was a trained killer. For him to, how can I say this? K-bar knife, a military knife. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about the fact that Brent Kopacka collected knives, which he did. He was a collector. He was a collector of them. This was stated by his friend. And I also said, and I said this before, the injuries sustained by the Idaho 4, Kathy Mabbutt, and I think this was then said again by, Kaylee Gonsalves' father, Steve Gonsalves, about the wounds not matching and about them being tears, stabs and tears. The K-bar knife is a specific kind of knife. It's a fighting knife, utility fighting knife, and it's you are trained to use it when you're in the military in a certain way. And a military person would be able to utilize that knife to the fullest of its capabilities. And somebody utilizing that knife to the fullest of its capabilities could very much inflict differing injuries across an array of attacks. So the actual fact that we're sitting here and we're contemplating that there may be multiple weapons is funny, because I say we shouldn't be really thinking about multiple weapons. We should be thinking about one weapon used in a multitude of ways, and who would have the ability to do that. And somebody who would have the ability to do that, and those of you who have been around the channel for a while, you will potentially remember me speaking about this previously. I just want to bring it back to the forefront now. We're a larger community. Someone in the military would have vigorous training with this exact specific type of weapon, and they would be able to use it in an exact specific type of way, which would, when written up, look vastly like Kathy Mabbutt's explanation of the wounds inflicted on these individuals. So I feel that in the event that Bryan Kohberger they are unable to find him guilty, or at best for him, it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did not do it. Cy Ray comes through and they are able to prove that he wasn't in the area. Then we do have to start looking at other people. As uncomfortable as that sounds, we have to start looking at other people. And I've said it and I'll say it again. Who are you going to start looking at then? Because people who don't want to look at Brent Kopacka and they don't want to look at the frat party and the fight that happened, if I had to pick between them, what would you want to pick? There was a frat fight. There was a fight between Ethan and Loach, and it escalated, and it ended up at the house, and it ended up into a 4-person massacre that nobody's then spoken about since then. Could it happen? Yes, it could happen. Of course, it could. Money talks, people walk. But what is more likely? I still have to consider what's more likely: this frat theory, the frat fight theory, or a hardened soldier trained to kill going through a mental health crisis due to a traumatic brain injury, who was executed after threatening to kill his roommates around the same time that the Idaho 4 cases happened. Make that make sense? I would still say that Brent Kopacka is a very viable alternative to Bryan Kohberger. Let me know down below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.